Hey everybody, and welcome back to Sports Central. If you're just joining us, I'm Mark Jackson. To my right, Mr. Hank Longo.
Hello everybody. Hey, we want to welcome you to our second segment of Sports Central and thank the folks at Hollywood Tinting and Signs for sponsoring this segment.
Yeah, it's pretty cool little snippets of the Carillon 5K. You know, and Brian Graydon, what a great guest, and Lakeland Runners Club, phenomenal success under his
doing
direction.
A fantastic job.
Oh, absolutely. Well, speaking of successes, we recently, as Hank mentioned a little bit earlier, the Hall of Fame and All Sports Awards were held last Tuesday night, and that was, I believe, the 25th. But what an evening. More than 500 people turned out at the Lakeland Center. Bright House Sports Networks televised the event and the induction ceremony and the awards and all of that type of thing. What a great evening. But one of the guests and one of the Hall of Fame honorees, inductees, I should say, was Nancy Denton. And she is also the coach of the Lake Wales softball team. Not satisfied with that, also brought along the assistant coach, Mike Settle. Nancy, Mike, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's
well, you guys have a lot to celebrate here. I mean, it's phenomenal that not only were you inducted into the Hall of Fame, but you were the state champions. I mean, that's pretty impressive in softball.
It was exciting. It was a fantastic run. You know, you have to be good. You have to be driven, and you have to be lucky. So, and our kids worked hard, and they, you know, were driven. They knew they had a goal. They met it, and we had some breaks along the way too. So you have to have all three.
Well, you know, in Florida, I mean, if you look at the competition, like with Bartow and the great program they've had, and the other schools in the state, to win a state championship in Florida is pretty monumental because the competition is so fierce. And what were some of the special parts of the season you think that made this team such a great team to win the state championships?
I'm not sure. We knew we had good athletes going into the program. But something started clicking. The pitching started really getting good, and the chemistry. We moved some kids around defensively. The chemistry started changing, and then the kids realized they had a chance. And you know, and that's a hard thing. The hardest thing to do about winning a state tournament is getting out of Polk County, because we have some of the best softball in the state, and so that's the first goal, is get out of Polk County.
Play somebody else besides these teams in Polk County.
Because the rest of the coaches, the schools in Polk County set the standard pretty high, and so we all kind of help each other and make each other better. So. Okay,
Mike. Got a question for you. This is, I'm sure, a frequent question. So, you're a guy, you're coaching these young ladies, softball. What kind of challenges does that present you? Because, you know, assuming you coached baseball and some other sports and so on, coaching girls, coaching boys, what's the difference?
It was definitely different. When I started coaching with Nancy 3 years ago, I had coached baseball at the high school, and making the change, a lot of people say you're going to have a hard time with the girls. You got to talk to them different, for sure. You can tell guys some things that you can't quite say to the girls. And but I'm going to tell you, the girls work just as hard, if not harder, than the boys did. And there's been some good athletes on the boys' side at Lake Wales too, but the group that we have the last couple of years, been a pleasure working with them and her. Unbelievable.
I mean, give me some examples. You know, are they a little bit more? You have to be a little softer in your approach. Do you have to be maybe a little tougher on them? It's
different for each one of them. Okay. One thing I never saw when I coached baseball was when I got on a guy. I never saw tears. Yeah. You get on a girl, sometimes you see tears, and as a dad, I have a daughter too, and that kind of tugs at you a little bit, you know. And so I had to change a little bit of the way I coached, but I still strive for them to be the best that they can be, but you got to do things different, for sure.
Well, Coach, you had a good coach. Nancy's, what has it been, 27 years that you've coached?
Yep, yep.
How do you keep that? How do you keep that fire? I mean, keep wanting to get out there year after year.
Well, I'm always learning, and each group of kids brings a little bit different. Everybody's different. Bring a little different set of problems, and I'm always trying to think of different ways to communicate with kids. Some kids understand things that others don't, you know, and then I always tell my kids that go to college, bring back drills, so I'm always trying to learn new drills, to incorporate new drills, and then you just, you know, the new group of kids that comes in brings new excitement as well. So it's just, somebody said, when are you going to finish? And I said, well, have you ever thought about stopping or retiring? I said, sometimes I think about it, and I think, well, when this crop gets and they graduate, then that'll be the end of it. And then there's another crop. And you think, well, maybe when this group goes a little bit more, you know, so it's just kind of, I just told Mike, I said, just make sure, Mike, that, you know, I'm not in a wheelchair and I don't have cataracts or something, so then it's time to go. So he's sometimes he calls me Bobby Bowden. He's a Seminole friend, so sometimes we refer to each other, me mostly as Bobby Bowden, but anyway.
Well, if it's what you love to do, why quit?
It.
I mean, if it's your passion, and that's what you want to do.
Look at Hank. I mean, he's still skiing and he's like 70.
Yeah, barely walking, but it's my passion. It's my passion.
You and I have to go in a home or something.
Yeah.
He is in one.
Dang, he hits that one out over the fence. It's gone. It's gone. All righty. Well, you know, it's hard to quit something that you love. You know, what do you replace that with? You know, if you give up something that you're just so dedicated to, you know, then what do you do?
I don't know, and I love it, and so I'm here for another year anyway. So.
Well, you know, Hank and I talked. That's kind of an interesting. You don't get this a lot on a lot of the talk shows and stuff, but the locker room environment. Mm-hmm. You know, that's in sports. That's what I miss the most. It's the camaraderie, you know, the joking around, the having fun, and all those types of things. But the locker room is also, in many ways, some will argue, the foundation for a successful team. You know, that chemistry that's built, the trust, and all of those types of things is built in the locker room. And when I'm using locker room mm-hmm. as off the field, mm-hmm. you know, and mm-hmm. it could be in a locker room, it could be somewhere else. But in your experience, what do you see?
Absolutely true. Absolutely, especially with girls, because we women tend to be cliquish, mm-hmm. and sometimes mean, and on a team you have to trust. It's the same thing as I used to do a little community theater work. You have to trust. You have to trust your teammates that they're going to make the play, or if that I miss a ball, I've got somebody behind me that's going to pick it up. Mm-hmm. Same thing on a stage. You have to trust that somebody else has their line, or they're going to cover for you if you forget your line. But it's trust is huge, and you don't have to love each other off the field, but you really have to get along together on the field.
And I would think in the coaching part, that's where it gets to be delicate, is having to manage mm-hmm. that and making mm-hmm. sure that they are getting along and trying to be there to help settle things down when they might get a little bumpy, and there's that psychological part that goes along with it. That's
and you have that with women. I think, Mike, you would agree, the guys kind of hash it out and they're done and they go on. Yeah. Girls, not so much, you know. So
I've seen that movie before. And I don't mean sports.
Yeah.
Mike, you know, obviously going from baseball to softball, the hitting's a little bit different. You know, with baseball, you get set, mm-hmm. get your anchor and all this type of stuff. What's the difference between coaching baseball with guys and coaching batting for girls in softball? I mean, there's some things that are different. Fundamentally, the principles are the same, but there's what makes a good hitter, what makes a bad hitter, what fundamentally makes it tougher or easier to coach.
Well, I think the speed of the game softball, of course, you don't have quite the reaction time as you do. But I mean, like you said, the basics are the same. I mean, you got to get your hips started first and your hands follow. Mm-hmm. And if your head's staying still, you should be a successful hitter. Some of them do it and some of them don't. But that's at boys or girls. I really think the speed of the game. Softball, we finished a game this year in an hour. Mm-hmm. We had an hour game this year, 7 innings. Baseball, wow. You're out there 2.5, 3 hours.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, the attention span, the attention span of the boys is will wander during the game, but in the softball, the girls seem to think they're right on top of things. But
the thing that fascinates me about girls softball is how these gals can pitch a ball. I mean, it amazes me of the speed that they generate and how you can be so consistent with that that rotating arm and movement, and just to be able to hurl it in there. I don't. And it's to throw the ball underarm like that and still be able to be so accurate to where it's going and at the speed that it goes. It fascinates me.
Yeah, that whole reaction time we were talking about too is phenomenal. That's that to me is the biggest difference. Is that you've got a shorter distance, but you've got the speed is there. It's different. It is just different. I've been challenged before. You get up there, you play ball and all this stuff. Yeah, well, I haven't done it yet. Slow pitch maybe. Nancy, Mike. Congratulations. Wow, what a year. And we look forward to having you back next year. This is awesome. This is awesome stuff. You've done a great job. And
one quick question. We have to ask this before we can go. Being inducted into the Hall of Fame, your speech was beautiful, and you could see the emotion and kind of the disbelief that it was really happening and the overwhelming feelings.
It's unbelievable. I think I mentioned, there are an awful lot of people that spend a lot of time with kids in Polk County, in the state of Florida, all over the nation. But in Polk County in particular, where we have so many good sports programs, to be singled out as one, and be honored is just unbelievable. It's just really, really humbling.
Well,
long overdue.
That's great stuff.
Thank you.
But it's state's #2 industry, and so that's another testament to the
great
sporting
level
events that you've reached. And I don't know if you knew that or not, but in the state of Florida, tourism is the #1 industry, sports is #2.
I did not know that.
I didn't either.
Yep.
Wow.
It's phenomenal.
Wow.
Real economic engine. Congratulations.
Thank
Thanks
you
so
so
much.
much.
I
Thank you.
really appreciate you guys being here. So,
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
loved it.
well.